Just don't have to call us to order before we get gavelled in.
Welcome, everybody. I'm glad to hear that we got the governor of the state of Maryland here with us today. And thank you. It's great they decided to come to Southern Maryland to visit us here in St. Mary's County, and we're very pleased to have him here. I got the chance to be with him during Mako's visit last week here, and he's going to have a great visit today. He's already had one by going by the Tobacco Barn Distilleries already.
That was great.
For those
That was
that know
great.
it, they won a national award for their bourbon. National, not just state, national award. So, thank you, sir, for coming down and recognizing us. Before we get started, please make sure you turn your cell phones off from vibrate. We are televising this and recording it for further broadcast this weekend. Good evening. Welcome to the special meeting of the Commissioner of St. Mary's County and Governor Westmore. This date, Tuesday, December 11th, 2023. I am Randy Guy, President and Commissioner of St. Mary's County. And before we get started, I'd like to introduce the other commissioners. Sitting to the right is Commissioner 1st District, which includes Ridge, Piney Point, St. John, Mr. Eric Colvin.
Hello.
Representing the 2nd Commissioner District, which includes Leonardtown Highway, Mr. Mike Hewitt.
Good afternoon.
Sitting to my left, representing the 3rd Commissioner District, which includes Charlotte Hall, 7th District, Golden Beach, and Mechanicsville, Mr. Mike Alderson.
Good afternoon.
And representing, oh, if I can get up a page going over here. Representing the 4th Commissioner District, which includes Lexington Park, some of California, some Hollywood, and Great Mills, Mr. Scott Ostro.
Good
Seated next to Commissioner Ostro at the end of the dais is our David Weiskopf, our County Administrator.
Thank you.
Sitting at the table to the right is our Communications Director, Ms. Jenna Guzman. Sharon Ferris, who's right here in, where is she at, Sharon?
Front row.
Oh, front row. There she is, right there. I lost her over there. She's seated at the front row. It's going to be our taking a recording. And Amy Carter, our video media producer, is behind the glass, which nobody really sees. She's back there doing all this program right now. Governor, if you want to, a few things before we start a little program. We do have a slide presentation. We're going to be asking some questions.
I'll be honored.
But in the meantime, if you got some things you want to give the audience and the people in St. Mary's County, we welcome.
Thank you, President Guy, and thank you all, and thank you. It is so good being back, and I cannot tell you enough how much this means, how thankful I am for each of you, and to be back down here in St. Mary's. You know, we just spent some time over at the Tobacco Barn Distillery, and it's just another reminder that St. Mary's produces champions. And not just the fact that we have Leonardtown boys soccer, now the state champions, and congratulations to the Leonardtown boys soccer team. But, you know, the reason that we went down to TBD to go celebrate their work is because it's true. They are it's the #1 farm distillery, not in the region, not in the state, the #1 farm distillery in the country. In the country. And I sent a message to my good friend, Andy Beshear, who's the governor of Kentucky. I told Governor Beshear, look out, because Maryland is where it's at.
Yes.
And I'm really thankful because, you know, in St. Mary's, you all continue to lead the way. And so I'm thankful for the chance to come down and listen. I'm thankful for the chance to come down and learn. I'm thankful for the chance to come down and share. You know, when we said that this was going to be a time when in Maryland, you know, our new state mantra and our new state motto is leave no one behind. Leave no one behind. And the ability to come down and spend time to not just share, but listen and learn. This is how we move. This is how we operate. And I just believe deeply that collectively, we're going to be better as a state, and we'll be stronger as a state. And so I'm grateful to be here. I'm thankful for this time. And I'm really excited to have a chance to be here at this meeting. So God bless you.
Thank you,
And I look
Governor.
forward to
Thank
it.
you very much for being here. It's a short visit, I know, but you're coming back again.
Oh, you know it. You know it.
Bring your
And,
staff down
and,
here.
in fact, that's exactly right. And President Guy is right. We actually have a rule within our administration. We have cabinet meetings once a month. So once a month, we pull all of our cabinet secretaries from all over together. And the only rule that we have during our cabinet meetings is they never take place in Annapolis. Because what are we learning in Annapolis, right? So every cabinet meeting, we go out and go to all the different jurisdictions, and we bring the entire Maryland government. And I think if not next month, the month after that, we're going to be down here. So look out, because we're bringing the entire Maryland state government down to St. Mary's County.
That'll be very, very informative, yeah. Well, we sort of got a brief presentation with that, and probably some questions to ask, and
Absolutely.
hopefully get some good answers from you too on that.
Absolutely.
But give you a little vision and mission and values that we have in St. Mary's County. And of course, our government will, we especially deliver the highest quality of public service we can. That's what we are. We're a servicing county.
Amen.
And that's local government, probably everything we can. And so hopefully deliver high-quality services, foster local opportunities, preserve local character, and support and engage employees. And we have great employees. We got the Aero Park is the innovation district that is that you hopefully will see maybe next time you come down. Visit Pax River, Flex Day Rare Test Center, and also the Aero Park. We are continuing to grow there with not only expanding our runway here pretty soon to bring in even larger aircraft, but all the mix we have out there right now that are supporting mainly the Patuxent River in their status here in life.
And just to jump in real quick,
Yeah.
Randy, one of
Yeah.
the things, Governor Moore, this is an innovation district. Now, that's a self-designation, but it really represents the importance that we're putting on this area and what we expect to see in the future for it. It's a really incredible place where just partnerships are happening, and it's really going to expand a lot. So we're excited for you to see it.
Outstanding. Thank you.
And of course, I know you're looking at some transportation cuts that we just got briefed on last week, but we've been trying very hard to expand our St. Mary's transit system. Unfortunately, we've been cut some money on that, and we've lost some grants on it, and it's been tough, pretty tough trying to expand on it. And we do have a certain part of our population that really needs, even though as a rural county, we depend on local transportation,
That's
your own
right.
vehicles and everything to get back and forth to work. But we're trying to expand our St. Mary's transit system to give a little more public transportation to everyone out there, especially those who don't have the ability to get on their own car and drive to medical appointments, doctors, whatever, and get to work. So it's very important that we continue to expand our St. Mary's transit system. And we just bought some new buses recently, but we need a little more help.
Yes, sir.
So I know you're.
That's definitely something that's very important in my district, Lexington Park, because it's the most densely populated area in the county. So we have a lot of folks who really depend on that STS bus system to get, like the commissioner said, to get to doctor's appointments, to get where they need to be to get to work. So that's very important for us, especially for me.
It's more of a disadvantaged people in that area. We got, yeah, that's probably, even though we're considered to be we got a lot of like, I think it was the lieutenant governor said we had the highest concentration.
We do.
Of
Engineers.
aerospace engineers.
In the country.
In the country, right
Country,
here.
yeah.
But on the other side, we have those poor and disadvantaged that need help. And we're like any other county, we got that same problem, and we got to get this, transportation is a key issue.
So, and before we move on from transportation, Governor Moore, we had the advantage last week of hearing you speak at MACO, and you talked directly about this and some of the serious issues that the state is facing, but I know that our audience didn't get the chance to hear you. We're concerned about what this means for us at a local level and what the impacts will be to our local system, and could you comment on that? at all?
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you, and thank you for giving me the opportunity. Sorry, say that.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, okay. Can y'all hear me now?
Also addressing
Okay.
it in the back, so I apologize, everybody.
No, that's all right. No, and I thank you for the opportunity because I know we're speaking a little bit about transportation and the priority that transportation is for me, for this administration, for all the local leaders, and knowing that we have to be able to work together to get things going, because there's one thing that I know is that you cannot have economic mobility if you don't have physical mobility. We got to have ways for people to be able to move around. We have to come up with ways for people to have sustainable and predictable transportation assets for them and their families. And we also have to be able to get our economy going. I tell you, when I first came on board, there are a few things that we learned very quickly, and I know everybody up here knows. I'm new to politics. I'd never run for office before. I was in the military. After that, I ran a small business, and after that, I led one of the largest poverty fighting organizations in this country. And so I'm new to politics, but I'm not new to balance sheets. I'm new to politics, but I'm not used to understanding how business models work. And the thing that we learned when we first came on board was that Maryland's economy just wasn't growing. That we had grown 0.2% over the past 5 years. The average state was growing by 7.5%. So we were falling behind. It's why our state was ranked 47th in economic momentum. And so there's a few things that we said we have to be able to do and we have to be able to get done. We have to be able to invest to be able to make sure that our small businesses can grow and thrive. And that means being unapologetically pro-business. It means helping our entrepreneurs. It means supporting our workers, and that's why we intentionally did things like raising a minimum wage and helping working families. But it also meant that knowing that the way that we fund transportation inside of our state, it just didn't make sense. That we kept on watching our Transportation Trust Fund, which was the sole entity that we had that was funding all of our transportation projects. It continued to dwindle and dwindle and dwindle and dwindle, and we did not have a business model that actually helped to sustain it. And so the thing that we had to be able to do is we were talking about what does it mean to actually move forward is rule number one was we're not going to put that burden just on the backs of working families and ask people to just start paying more into a system that wasn't working. You got to actually fix the business model. That's the hard thing. The easy thing would just to say, hey, everybody pay a little more, right? The hard thing would say we've got to actually be able to address the model. And so as we're thinking about all these projects going forward, whether talking about, STS, or whether we're talking about roads and bridges, where we're having conversations about the Thomas Jefferson Bridge, right? These are things that we know are priorities. We've got to be able to fix these things. It's not even just a safety issue, it's an economic growth issue.
Right. Definitely.
But we've got to make sure we're doing it smartly. And just simply asking people, well, just keep paying more into a system that continues to have a hole in the bottom. That doesn't work. And so I think what we were talking about last week over at over at MACO, which is the Maryland Association of Counties, was simply saying that we have a chance right now to actually work together to be able to do something where we can get our projects done. We can prioritize being able to move people around, prioritize projects, both mass transit projects like STS, prioritize bridges like Thomas Johnson, prioritize roads, but do it in a way that's actually sustainable and not do it in a way where we are disrespecting working families and disrespecting taxpayer dollars. Like, this is a chance for us to actually move fast and move far, but we've got to rethink the business model on how that actually works. And so the thing that so for the people who are looking at these projects, just know I hear you. And I hear you with everything in me. And the priorities are my priorities. But the thing that we know is that we've got to come up with a better model in the way that we're properly using taxpayer dollars and not just simply spending it. Properly using taxpayer dollars, not just spending it. Because that can't be something that is the way that Maryland does its work or does its business, because frankly, if that's what ends up happening, that's how you get all these other states who end up eating our lunch. That's how you get all these other states that are growing faster than us. That's how you get Maryland growing at 0.2% while the rest of the country is growing at an average of 7.5%, because they're being smart and they're being strategic. And it's just time that as a state that we're going to start being smart and strategic too.
So Governor, awesome stuff that you're talking about. And hit on a few things. One thing I learned last week that you probably know way better than me, the Transportation Trust Fund is actually the revenues are going up. It's just the expenses are going up at a faster rate. So that's exactly what you're talking about.
Well, and actually, it's you're absolutely right, but it's even trickier than that. We're watching the expenses go up, right? So you're watching how on our balance sheet it's more expensive for the state of Maryland to operate.
Yep.
But it's not even that we have revenue that's going up as well, because when you're looking at the Transportation Trust Fund, the Transportation Trust Fund is actually primarily focused on one certain element, and that's gas tax.
Yep.
right? It's gas tax. And so the complication of gas tax is when you are watching inflation moving the price of gas, when you're watching more electric vehicles coming on board, and electric vehicles don't use gas, right? It makes that model very, very complicated. And that's what I mean by we have an old model in the way that we are doing this and evaluating it. So when you look at the way we fund transportation, do you know the way we fund transportation? Do you know when that model was created?
I know.
10 years ago. So we are funding this the way we funded it 10 years ago, as if people are still living the same, as if we're still moving around the same. And I say, listen, I ran a small business before I ran for governor. And here's what I know as a small business owner. If I have a business model that is anemic, and the growth of my company is anemic, right? And I'm watching all these other businesses grow faster than me, and I don't change my business model, then I'm a failed CEO, right? So this actually, so to your point, this actually is a great time for us to say, what's our business model?
Right.
And does it actually equate to how we live right now, that we can do a better job of being able to increase the capital that's going to the Transportation Trust Fund, but not necessarily do it on the backs of working families?
Right.
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 Right. Very true. Very true.
Wonderful. So you also talked about pro-business.
Yeah.
That's wonderful because that's what the state needs. That's what we need. We had a great session last week with an economist who talked about we need the population to grow in Maryland in order to make that happen. One of the things I hear about a lot, we are a rural county with a lot of water around us, all of it in the critical area.
Yeah.
And the regulations are detrimental.
Struggling us.
And it's very hard. Now, we all want to protect our environment because that's what makes our county so beautiful, but it's very hard for old buildings to be refurbished and reused and repurposed, and we need to find pathways to make it easier and encourage that. Instead of new growth, just encourage the revitalization of derelict properties. So anything you can do from the state level to help with that would be extremely helpful.
Amen. And it's something that I'm excited to do really do together, because I think part of the challenges that we're seeing with regulations and permitting is some of it is state and some of it is local. Right? And how those two collapse on top of each other. But the problem is that the people who will then feel the weight of it all is the entrepreneurs. It's the small business owners. And I don't know if it's state and all of it's local, but what I know is I got a lot of weight on me. Right? And so so when people say, and they're like, you know what, it's really difficult to grow a business in the state of Maryland. I always say, I was an entrepreneur. I was like, I know, I had to do it. And it is true. The amount of permitting, the amount of regulatory red tape that we continue to. I'm talking to small business owners, and it is taking some of them. It's taking them 3 years to get their permits.
And housing, too.
And housing. Housing is a whole. I'll talk about housing in a second, because that's a whole other piece. But you will see that we have, as we're coming up with this next legislative session, one of the things that we are going to be focusing on is just permitting. It's permitting, it's regulations, it's regulatory red tape. It's and to your point, it's not the sexy stuff sometimes.
Yep.
But it's the thing that matters to that small business owner.
Oh, yeah.
It's the thing that matters to that entrepreneur. Yes. But like we have to make sure that we are creating an environment that is allowing our businesses to grow and not making them want to look elsewhere. Right? Because when they are growing, do you know what they're doing? They're hiring. Do you know what they're doing when they're hiring? They're creating more taxpayers. Do you know what they're doing when they're creating more taxpayers? We now have more resources to do all the big things that we want to be able to do. But that means we have to stop getting in the way so much and making permitting so complicated. And stop making permitting so complicated. I will say this one other thing, though. The other thing that we have to do is we have to make it easier for people to get the skills that they need to compete in a 21st century economy.
Here, here. Yes.
And that means having an education system that's teaching our young people how not just to be employees, but how to be employers. right? It means actually focusing on things like apprenticeship programs and trade programs, because I'm proud of the fact, and listen, I'm proud of the fact that we have some of the best four-year colleges in the country, in the world, in the state of Maryland, to include St. Mary's, right? I'm proud of that. But I also know this. We have to end this lie that every single one of our children need to attend one of them in order to be economically successful. It's not true.
You're right.
I come from a union family. I come from a family of small business owners. And I know that they had pathways to create work, wages, and wealth, pathways to create economic opportunities for our families that might not necessarily have required a master's degree and a bunch of debt. And that's okay. But creating those pathways, I think, is something really important. And by the way, I'll say one more thing along those lines. It's why I'm proud of the fact that Maryland is now the first state in this country that has a service year option for all of our high school graduates. And I know, and a little later on, we're actually going to be spending some time with some of the service year students who are working here in St. Mary's County. And why that becomes important, why that becomes important is this, is when you are giving our young people a chance to serve, when you're giving them a chance to be part of something bigger than themselves, and we're not telling the young people how to serve. Some are working in the environment. Some are helping to build seawalls to address rising sea levels. Some are working on helping returning citizens when they're coming back home from incarceration. Some are working on early childhood supports. We're not telling them how to serve. We're simply asking them to find that thing that makes their heart beat a little bit faster. And then give a pathway to go after it. It's a way of helping to, because we believe deeply in experiential learning. We believe deeply in earned financial cushions and giving young people a financial cushion that they have earned. We believe deeply in the idea that in this time of this political divisiveness and political vitriol, like I love you know what I love? I love the fact that I'm sitting up here and you know, for some, I have an idea because I've done my homework, but the truth is, I don't know who's Democrat, I don't know who's Republican. What I know, these are public servants, right? Because the political party doesn't matter.
No.
And in this time of political divisiveness and vitriol, I believe service will save us. And also knowing that for these young people who are now working and doing service work all over the state of Maryland, do you know what they're also doing? This is creating a pathway to a workforce. This is workforce development. And that's the kind of stuff that we want to be able to
So,
focus on.
Governor, last week at MACO, I was on a panel talking about recruitment, retention, and local government, and I highlighted one of our service year initiative people who's working in our office, so we're very appreciative of that. Talking about education, the blueprint, you're hearing it across the state. Local governments, St. Mary's County, we're ahead of the curve on it, but local governments are struggling with it. So I'm hoping that you can work with the legislature this year to find some relief for local governments on that.
No, and
We all agree with the goals. We all agree with the goals.
Absolutely. No, and I do, and I know all of this is true. All of us do believe in the goals. You know, and for those who might not know, the blueprint piece of legislation that was passed back in 2019. And so passed before I became the governor, but really puts together some really important and ambitious goals when it comes to education for our students. And it really says, what the blueprint laid out was it really said, what would it look like if we could give our students a world-class education, right? What could they do if we could give them every tool that the best systems in the world, not even in the country, in the world are getting? And I applaud the legislature for the work that they did for years to be able to get this piece of legislation passed, you know, now 4 years ago. And it talks about things like early childhood education, which I'm a big believer in. You know, I believe we've got to start our kids early because, you know, 80% of brain development happens to a child by the time that child is 5 years old. So why we have kids starting school at 5 just doesn't make sense. You know, why we have kids starting school who don't know letters and numbers and colors. They're already so far behind. You know, I believe in the idea that we have to incentivize the best educators from around the country to come to Maryland and to stay here. You know, I believe deeply, really on education, you know, I believe deeply that we have to invest more in CTE, in career technical education, and giving young people pathways to economic success and stop evaluating high schools based on four-year college acceptance rates. That's not the right benchmark. So I believe in the goals and the tenets of the blueprint. I do know that right now that the legislature, they passed this bill 4 years ago, and right now they're having very, very intense conversations about the funding formula. Because the funding formula and the rollout is the thing that I think is very contentious for a lot of folks. And I'm fully for that conversation that they want to have about the funding formula and the rollout and everything else, because you're absolutely right. It's not just in St. Mary's. I mean, these are conversations that are happening all over the state of Maryland, all 24 jurisdictions. But the thing that I know is, while I think, I'm all for the conversation on how we think about the funding formula and the rollouts, I also know the tenets and the goals of the blueprint. They're the right goals.
Right.
So we just need to be thoughtful on how we can sustainably get there, though.
Yep.
Yeah.
Governor, to come back to what you were saying earlier about colleges versus the trades, I'm 35 years as a tradesman, and with Zippy College. I think society as a whole has looked upon the trades as people being less than. Unless you change, until the thought process of society as a whole gets over the you can't succeed without college.
That's right.
That's why no one wants to be a tradesman anymore.
That's right.
When, my youngest son told me he wants to be a welder. I'm over the moon about it.
That's right.
My oldest son's going to be a mechanical engineer. Over the moon about that also.
Right.
But I see the importance of both of them. And I think pushing CTE and promoting the Forest Center that we have down here, we'll be going in a little bit. Take a tour of that entire place. The graphics arts department, I helped get the national accreditation for that department when I was still working full-time in the industry. It's changed a lot since then, but that's a great stepping stone. I talked to someone from the Chamber of Commerce who said that they would rather have, employers would rather have welders out of the Tech Center program than they would out of a community college program.
That's right.
And so I do appreciate that part of the blueprint. There are some other things in the blueprint that, as the spouse of a teacher, she has concerns about, and so she has shared them with me. And that could be
That's fair.
That could be a subject for another day, something we can talk about another day.
Yes, sir.
That could be a whole hour.
Well, please tell her I said, for both of you, thank you for your service, because y'all are family public servants, and just please tell her how much I appreciate it. And I tell you, some of the proudest work that we have done in our first 10 months of all, and there's a whole lot that we're very, very proud of. Some of our proudest work is the fact that we've made historic investments in trade programs, CTE, and in workforce development in our state. And it matters for a few different reasons. One is it actually better aligns people to understand what jobs are available right now and what jobs are available for the future. I mean, and even in certain industries. I remember, so I was talking with the CEO of a biopharma company, and I was asking her, and I said, what are the things that you're looking for, and what are the skill sets? And she was saying, one of the things that people don't realize, and this is biopharma. People think biopharma, like, all the big brains and all that kind of stuff, right? One of the things she told me, she said, actually, many of the things that I'm looking for right now, they require a high school degree. She said, I can train them on everything else that I need them for. And I said, that's very interesting, because I said, people make the assumption for one of the larger biopharma companies that you're looking for the PhDs, and she says, no, she goes, actually, what we're really looking for is the people who actually know how to get work done. I can train people on this kind of work. I believe that we have such a powerful opportunity if we can center this economy to really focus on these things, that we can make some real improvements. And I think about right now in the state of Maryland, we've been, here again for 10 months and put a core focus on this idea of workforce development. In the past 10 months, Maryland has jumped 20 slots in economic momentum, and Maryland now has the lowest unemployment rate in the entire country, right? In the entire country. And I tell people, like, and it's not just because we have the highest percentage of people with master's degrees, right? It's because we believe in work, that we believe in a good day's work, and that we believe that if you can focus on not just removing the barriers, but changing the goal, that we have for our high schools and trade schools, et cetera, that we can actually make really big economic momentum and really actually get economic swings that are going to benefit Maryland in the long term.
Well, definitely look at those regulations to get that swing, because I think that's the biggest hurdle
Yeah.
that we face from the local guy who wants to build a deck
Yes.
on the back of someone's house to someone who wants to actually bring a manufacturing facility into the state.
Correct.
So
Amen.
there's things we're going through at the county level that we get held up on at the state level when you have contradictory information at the state and not getting not having the clear lines of communication between some of the departments at the state level that are holding up people down here, and have homeowners trying to get into their homes, and you have builders who are dealing with carrying costs with the interest rates going up every other month. Yeah, and I know they've gone down recently here in the past month or so a little bit, but not so much where it's going to help that guy who's building that house who has subcontractors he has to pay. So definitely circle back. to
And who,
reg-
by the way, is probably still dealing with supply chain backups, and who's still doing a whole bunch of other economic issues that we still have to navigate. And it's just about how can we, as a state and a local government, just let that person know that we see them, and let him or her know that we're willing to move things out of the way to make sure that their dreams can actually come true as well. So I'm eager to work with you on that.
Thank you.
And we're lucky in our county. We have, you're talking about the trades. You're getting ready to go to one today.
We are.
For our high school students. CSM's got one up in Hughesville. Great trade. We just opened up the medical part. It looks like you're walking into a hospital. It's got all these dummies in there, and they experiment on them and show you how to put needles into them and everything. It's amazing. You ought to go through that. You would believe it. But so we're fortunate with all this trades that we have here now.
Amen.
We realize that we need those electricians, those plumbers, and those nurses. We need all that here.
All of them.
We got a good start here right now. But
And
that's
we
a-
have, and I tell you, even in, we see it in the mother county, but we also see it all around the state. Some of these shortages that we are seeing in some of these areas, things like nursing,
Yep.
right? Things like educators. One of the reasons, one of the first bills that we introduced that I testified on behalf of, that I proudly passed, was the Educator Shortage Act. And the Educator Shortage Act was all about making sure that we were coming up with the right incentives to both recruit and retain educators inside of our classrooms. Because we know that if you can have top quality educators inside of our classroom, you are going to have top quality students that will then exit that classroom, right? It's all about how can we make sure that we get those educators that can spark that genius that exists in every single one of our children, and let them know that there is actually a core way of helping them to get to their long-term pathway. So you're right on all those industries and more. Being intentional about production
Oh, yeah.
becomes really important.
So
I
Governor
think it's
Moore,
also important, sorry, I think it's also important for, as Commissioner Alderson as well. I mean, I'm somebody who went to college later in life, paid for it myself. I mean, I worked in the grocery industry for many years and worked my way up through that. I think it's also very important, as, we focusing on a lot of people going into the trades and things like that. I think it's also very important to recognize that there's nothing wrong, and we all need it. We all need those people who, work in the grocery stores and do those jobs, and you can make a fine living doing that. I'm proof of that. I raised my family, working for Safeway and some of the other larger companies, and that's important to instill upon them that there's nothing wrong with those jobs either. I think sometimes we focus very heavy on, you need to go to college and you need to get that 4-year degree, or you need to learn, how to do air conditioning or airplane mechanics or all that. But there's also nothing wrong with going to work at Giant or all these other support businesses, and a job is a job, and a job well done is a job well done.
Amen.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
Governor,
I
know our
I
time is really short, so I want to make sure that Commissioner Hewitt gets a chance to talk about this.
Everything you're saying, Governor, is very exciting, and we're very excited to have you. But we think we have a potential win-win for you, for us, for the state, the feds, and it's rising sea levels. What we have going on at St. George's Island in St. Mary's County is a rising sea level, and it gives us flooding of this Maryland Route 249. Now, when we were out at the Mako, we heard from Sean Rinkler from MDOT talk about the Biden infrastructure bill that has probably close to 300 million. This is low-hanging fruit down here. Now, while it's low-hanging fruit to most people, if this flooding takes place, it isolates over 200 families that cannot get services when this happens. We've been working on this for 8 years with Delegate Bohannon, after him with Delegate Crosby, Senator Bailey. It's a project that's had a lot of momentum, and it's gotten pushed off with this somber message about transportation. We get it, but we think we can win by getting federal dollars involved in this for rising sea levels and for also coastal resiliency. And that we could get a project. We have a design that's been approved. DNR's gone through it. It talks to a living shoreline, breaks that breakwater. We raise the asphalt. Again, it keeps these families from being isolated. They're isolated now when the full moon and a high tide comes together. They get 4 inches of water over top of that road. So if you have an emergency situation, you have a heart attack or a baby being born, anything like that to happen, these people are definitely impacted. So while it's only 200, it's very important to those people who live there.
Amen.
And this is something we can win on, and we want to give you a victory, sir. We want you to come to St. Mary's County and say, I made that happen for you.
Yep.
So if we can get your attention on that, we're going to work with you, work with your staff.
Yes, sir.
Work with Congressman Hoyer's staff, make this happen for us.
Yes, sir. No, and listen, I appreciate you. I appreciate you wanting to give me a victory. I think what we do, we want to give them a victory.
Oh, of course.
Oh, no doubt.
And
When you get one, they get one.
when they get one. But I tell you, I'm very, very excited to work on that. One thing that we have done is we know that in this time we are going to significantly leverage the fact that there are federal dollars that are also out there to be able to support these issues. I think about the IRA, the bill that was passed before the Inflation Reduction Act. When I think about how we have been able to, when I said by the end of our first term, I want to make sure that everybody in this state is wired with broadband and Wi-Fi access, going from really Western Maryland to the Eastern Shore, Cecil, Harford County to Southern Maryland, everywhere in between, because you cannot have a technological revolution when many people can't even participate because they don't have broadband, right? Because they don't have Wi-Fi, so they don't have Wi-Fi, right? So
I'm proud to say one thing, we're 98%.
oh yes,
Been
St. Mary's
pushing
County,
hard for that.
we have pushed hard. We spent millions and millions of putting these cables in.
I have to tell you, and this county, the leadership that this county has seen on not just this issue, but I'm talking specifically about this issue, has been absolutely extraordinary.
Thank you.
Absolutely extraordinary. And we're going to get to 100%. But I do think that the issue of the rising sea levels is an important one because when people talk about the impacts of climate and what we're seeing with climate, my point is this, no one needs to educate me, particularly no one around the country needs to educate me on this issue. 70% of our state is waterlined or waterlocked, right? So so there is no one else around the country who needs to educate us on the impacts of climate and what we're seeing when it comes to extreme heat and rising sea levels and extreme cases of asthma and all the ways that this is showing itself. But we can't just think that the answer is going to be how to impact and how to push back against climate change. It also has to be climate resiliency.
True.
And that includes things like seawalls that's actually address rising sea levels. We plan on not just utilizing state resources, but you were right, utilizing federal resources as well to make sure that the work gets done and the work gets done continued. And county too. But that it'll be a collective issue. It'll be a collective balance sheet, and it'll be a collective win.
Yeah.
So I'm excited. I'm very excited to work with you on that.
Thank you.
Good. Thank you, yeah.
So when you're done here for the day and you drive back up to Annapolis and you go over the Thomas Johnson Bridge back up to
Yes.
Annapolis, just keep in mind that bridge has more daily traffic than the Mac Middleton Bridge going to Virginia.
That's true.
So it is a bridge that, I know it's not in your budget right now, it's tough, but there's been a
It's a pri-
company
it's a
that's
priority.
trying to put a toll on it, but that is a key vital infrastructure piece that working people drive over to get to work, and we
Well,
can't
yeah.
make it a toll bridge. We have to do something better. because-
And we rode that bridge coming over here as well. So
It's also the
it's top of
escape
mind.
route for the
Nuclear
for the
power
nuclear
plant.
power
Nuclear power
plant.
plant,
That
that's
is
right.
a vital bridge for us.
That's right.
Supports the base.
Governor, before we run out of time, I want to push the YMCA on you, sir.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. All right.
We are bringing a YMCA to St. Mary's County.
Love it.
It is going to happen, sir.
I love it.
This county has put up over $16 million for this, what I call a public-private partnership. These YMCA's are wonderful organizations that take care of individual communities that they're located in, and it's something we vitally need. So we need your help. I know budgets are tight, things are tight, but we put ourselves out there, and we're hoping that we can count on you to help us through our delegates, through our state senator, to get this project up and moving. We're very motivated to break ground in September of '24 and hopefully have this thing open by January of '26. So with your help, understand this YMCA, I'm not trying to be the only advocate. Every commissioner on this board advocates, all these people out here
You
advocate.
got a lot of advocates out here.
It will grow our community. It will be transformation in this community.
And and I tell you, one of the reasons that I'm big fans of YMCA's is, it's not just about physical health. It's mental health. It's community gathering spots. It's places where you have early childhood supports. It's places where you have lifelong learning. Like you have YMCA's that just serve essentially as community hubs that are helping to feed, in some cases literally and figuratively,
Right.
feed families in a really, really powerful way. And I will say one thing, Commissioner. I do want people to know that that one thing that we're not going to do in our state is make false choices. And I think that sometimes people say, well, are we going to be bold and get big things done? Or are we going to be fiscally responsible?
We can be both.
We can be both.
We can be both.
Absolutely.
Fiscally responsible.
Be both.
And we will be fiscally responsible. We will make sure that we have to take care of every single taxpayer dollar. We have to make sure that we're being smart about the usage of every taxpayer dollar. And we can be bold and actually create a future that honors, the children that are going to have to inherit it.
Yes.
So,
Thank you.
I agree.
We can't do enough for our children. We really
Amen.
can't.
No doubt.
Randy,
Amen.
could we call up our service interns to meet?
Were they-
the
are they
governor,
here?
Too? I think they're here.
We have two of them, right?
We would love to have our service interns come up to the front, and you'll be meeting, and
Young man,
all of
come
our
out.
elected officials will bring you around the front for a photo op.
All right.
Yeah.
This part of your program right here. Taking off already.
Our student interns here for you, service intern. We'll all be exiting that way, just so you guys are aware.
We got to just close out our meeting. We have to adjourn.
Yes, why don't you come with me?
Governor Moore, we appreciate your,
I'm happy to walk you out.
We have to adjourn.
you can't run away yet.
I'll say the president's going to let me beat the gavel.
All right, this time, we want to thank Governor Moore for being here. What he's just given us his first year in office sounds awful good. We're looking forward to the next 3 years and beyond.
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you so much.
Thanks so much. I thank my citizens for being here tonight to listen to this, and all those on the TV program and all of our Facebook and everything else. Thank you very much for listening in. And Governor, we're going to go have a good dinner now.
Yes, sir.
You'll see what our trades really are like now.
I'm ready. I'm ready.
Meeting closed.
Thank you all.